Last week, I met with Kevin Myris, and he indicated that he intended to make sure that all full-time faculty were fully loaded next academic year. And what that would mean is that after assignments were made for the spring of 2024, if he found that there were faculty that were not fully loaded, they would need to either teach more or do more service and professional development. Now, that could be extremely disruptive after we've already developed the schedule for the spring of 2024. So I would rather have us as faculty on the front end ourselves ensure that we are fully loaded. And I would also like to empower the faculty in our department to decide for themselves how much teaching you want to do, how much service you want to do, how much professional development you want to do. In order to do that, you have to know what your teaching load actually is and how to calculate that. So I wanted to share with you the information that I recently learned about your total workload and how to calculate your teaching load. And so that's what this video is all about. So first and foremost, this is what Kevin has developed to be your total load. So our contract runs for 18 weeks a semester. So there's 16 weeks of teaching, and there was a week before teaching and a week after. The handbook, according to Kevin, says that we're supposed to work 35 hours a week. I've never read the handbook. Kevin says that's what's in there. I have no reason to doubt him. So that's where that number comes from. And so if you do the math, that's 630 hours per semester. Now, the old workload subdivided our total load into 70% teaching, 20% service, 10% professional development. Now, that is no longer the requirement. We can do more teaching and less service, or more teaching and service and less professional development, or more service and less professional development and teaching. That is completely up to you. In order for you to determine how much of each of these you want to devote time to, you need to know what your teaching load is. And so I want to share with you how to determine that. So I'm going to go to the spreadsheet now here, and this was provided to me, and I'll show you the key numbers that are going to determine your workload. So for every contact hour, you are allotted 3.65 hours. So that would be, your prep. For a new prep, you're given an additional 0.5 hours per contact hour, and then a small amount is allotted to your class side. So the larger your class, the greater the additional workload. This is by far the smallest component of your workload. And so those three factors are taken into consideration to determine your teaching load, right? I'm going to go through these numbers in just a second, but I want to scroll to the bottom. So right now, we're at a 0 teaching load. I'm trying to get this thing to disappear on me here. Oh, there we go. Right, so I haven't put anything into the spreadsheet. So there's a 0 learning facilitation or teaching load. This spreadsheet automatically assumes 10% professional development and 100% load. So it subtracts learning facilitation and professional development from the total load, and then it gives you what the service is. So like right now, there's 0 teaching, so the assumption is there's going to be 10% professional development and 90% service. So as we increase the percentage of total learning facilitation, you'll see the service number go down. So I'm going to do 2 scenarios, and they're a bit complicated purposefully. I'm trying to put together every scenario you may run into. So in this first scenario, let's say I'm going to teach General A&P 3 stacked sections, both lab and lecture, and I'm going to teach only a lab section of A&P 1. Like maybe another instructor is teaching the lectures, and they need me to teach 1 lab. And then I'm also going to teach 2 stacked sections of A&P2, but I'm only going to teach the lab for 1 of those, right? And a part-time instructor is going to teach the second lab. Okay? So yes, fairly complicated. Alrighty, so I'm going to go to my spreadsheet, and then a column here, I'm going to type in the course ID number, and I'm going to actually go up here to the top here and enter it. It gets funky if you enter it directly into the cell. So 20806-206. I've got 3 stacked sections, so I'm going to do it 3 times. 20806-206. Actually, I'm going to copy and paste. Okay, so there's a database that pulls from, there's a fall 2022 database that will automatically pull the course title, the hour factors, the hours, contact hours per week. The spreadsheet knows this is the first incidence, so for a new prep, I'm giving that 0.5 factor. It pulls the number of credits, which is 4, and it pulls the average class enrollment, which for fall 2022 was 19. We were in COVID, so that actually reflects some online classes, right? And so with the enrollment subtotal, we have a total course load of 22.15 here for this section, and then 20.15 and 20.15 for the other sections. Now, these 3 sections are stacked, so it's going to be 1 common lecture. I'm given credit for 3 hours of lecture here and 2 hours of this lab. These other 2 labs, because they're stacked, I only need 2 contact hours. So I'm going to override here in the pink area 2 contact hours, 2 contact hours. Because for those 3 sections, I'm going to be teaching 3 hours of lecture here and then 6 hours of lab. 2, 4, 6. So I have to override this 5 here. If the number of credits that was being pulled was incorrect, I could also override that as well, but that's correct, so I'm not going to put anything there. I'm going to teach these face-to-face, so the 19 students per section is no longer correct. We max out at 16. Oop, typed in the wrong spot there. We max out at 16, so I'm going to put 16 there, 16 there, and 16 there. All right, so you can see that adjusts my loads for those sections, and so now I am at a load of just under 40, and you can see my service requirement to balance out to 100 is dropped to 50%. All right, now I'm going to teach 1 A&P 1 lab. So, click on 20806-207. Okay, so now it is automatically assigned 5 contact hours because the assumption is I'm going to teach 3 hours of lecture and then 2 hours of lab. However, I'm only teaching the lab, so I'm going to override that 5 with a 2. And again, I know that that course maxes at 16 students per section, so I'm going to put 16 there. So now I'm at 50% teaching, and now services dropped to 39. Now I am going to, if I can get this to move, thank you. I'm going to add my 2 stack sections of AMP2, but I'm only teaching one of the labs. Both lectures, but only one of the labs. So 20806-208 and 20806-208. Right, I am teaching both labs, so this 5 is correct. Notice this is another prep, so I'm getting a little extra for that. However, I'm only teaching one of the labs. The other lab is being taught by a part-time instructor, so I'm going to override that 5 with a 0. I still get a little bit of load because those students are going to be in my lecture, but nothing for the lab. And so now I am at 74% teaching load, assuming 10% professional development. My service now is 15%. So if my service requirement is 15%, go back here. If we do the math, $15 of 630 is 94 hours. So 94 hours per semester would meet that 15% service. And I'm fully loaded if I've done my math correct here. Now, in the second scenario, rather than teach these AMP2, I'm going to substitute it with plants, parasites, and people lecture and plants, parasites, and people lab. And I chose plants, parasites, and people because these courses aren't in the database, because this database pulls from fall 2022. So I'm going to get rid of AMP2. Anywhere that I overrode, I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. So plants, parasites, and people, I believe that's 237 and 238. Okay, these are not in the database because these are new courses. We'll eventually get the database updated, but right now it only includes courses through and data through fall 2022, right? Well, when I look up the lecture, it is 3 credits, right? So I'm given 0 because it's not in the database. So I'm going to put not 3 credits, 3 contact hours, right? It is also 3 credits. And the lecture and the lab are 2 separate courses. And I know that the lab is 25 students, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And then the lab here is 2 contact hours. It is 1 credit. If I'm not mistaken, it is 16 students. Let's just assume that I looked this up and it is 16 students. I believe it is, but honestly, I can't. I didn't. I went and looked it up and thinking I would remember it, and then I didn't write it down. But let's just assume. Okay. And so now I have, I'm at 74.9%. So 15.1 is my service requirement to make up the difference. Right, and 15, well, we'll just round it to 15 and say it's the same. So if I've done my math correctly, this also comes out to 94 hours per semester service to be fully loaded with this schedule. So I hope that this has been helpful in helping you to calculate your teaching load or run your own scenarios of, hey, if I want to have 100% teaching and, well, I guess I should say 90% teaching and some professional development and zero service or whatever you desire, that you have the ability to calculate that. Lastly, I do understand that everyone is not familiar or maybe comfortable with Excel. And if you would like for me to work with you in calculating your teaching load, I'll be more than happy to do that. Before ending this, I just want to say that I am not the load police. It is not my intent to scrutinize your load and to make sure that you have X load or X teaching, etc. That really is Kevin's job. What I know is that he is going to demand that everyone is fully loaded, and we should all be fully loaded. My role in this is providing you with the information and the tools so that you can make the best decisions with respect to your load, and to address questions and concerns that you may have. So with that, I'm going to end this recording, and thank you very much for your time. Bye.